Welcome to Writing in Rome Research. So, we are at the end of the road. We have gone through the collect session, we've gone through the curate session, we've gone through the synthesize session, and we've instituted processes for all of these sessions. And we are now in the create session. And at this point, there are a couple of decisions that you are going to need to make about your writing process at this stage. The first choice you have is whether to write inside Rome Research or choose to write outside of Rome Research. Now, why would this be a decision that you would have to make? The decision comes because Rome Research still has not gotten to the point in their development where exporting from Rome is effective or pretty. So we are at the point where you need to decide if the pros of writing in Rome outweigh the cons of writing in Rome. We do have a few export um, options, but these options are, what can we say? They're not optimal. So once you have watched this video and the following videos, you will be able to make a decision about the process you're going to choose. So there will be some options within this video that you will choose or not choose based on the decision that you're going to make. I believe that the benefits of writing inside Rome Research far outweigh the cons of exporting from Rome Research. And it is my belief that if we do write in Rome Research, that eventually Rome is going to catch up with us and they are going to provide us a mechanism to do it in a more effective and pretty way. So, with that said, let's begin talking about writing in Rome Research. So, what are the lesson goals today? The lesson goal is just to learn how to write effectively within Rome Research using all of the tools that we have created through the processes that we have learned up until today. So, the most important thing you need to think about is your setup for writing in Rome Research. So, if you have installed the CSS that I provided, in the graph, you will have these multiple side panel capabilities available to you. There is also another CSS code called Zenith, which allows you to open multiple side panels that you may prefer. You don't need to install any of those fancy CSS if you don't wish. Everything we do today will work just as well in vanilla Rome. I say just as well, but it will work. You will be able to complete the process in vanilla Rome, although having the multiple side panels makes it a lot easier. So the first thing you need to do is decide whether or not you're going to use your side panel CSS. And then there are two components of the process, and that is the main outline that we are going to be using, and then the outline section that we are going to be writing in. So let's begin. We're going to begin by opening, I'm just going to close this, by opening the actual thesis and preparing to write. So here we go. We are in the sample thesis. And again, you see multiple versions here. That is because I was creating multiple versions so that I can teach you without flipping back and forth. And what you see here is actually let's have a look at the earlier version. What you'll see here is the version that we created when we were in the outline synthesis section. Now we have moved this version to version 2 because we are actually going to be doing stuff within this outline. It looks a little bit different, but don't worry about that. So don't panic if you don't have an outline that is robust. This outline, your outline will probably go through many, many, many iterations. And in fact, the entire thesis outline could end up being on a completely different topic than the one that you start with. You'll find if you're just starting your PhD that this might happen to you, that you have read and expanded your knowledge in your proposed topic, and your proposal is narrowed down to something quite specific. So my message to you is don't be precious about your outline. Don't try and make it perfect from start one. Just get an outline there so that you have something to write into. With versioning, it's very, very simple for you to rework your outline and drag and drop all your block referencing from your previous outline. Whereas if you were working in Scrivener or you were working in Word, this becomes actually quite complicated, especially in Word, as you try to save pieces of one section and move them to another section in another document. Believe me, I tried it. It doesn't really work. The one thing I do want to point out to you here is that an outline is an output page type. So that means that the only things you are going to put into your outline, the only content that you're going to put into your outline is that content that you intend to be in your output. So any sort of questioning, editing, any of that information will happen in your section outline, which is we're going to open on the side, and we'll explain how to do that. So the next step is to pick a section of your thesis outline that you're going to work on. And whenever you decide which section you're going to work on, click into the line for that section. You'll see that we've decided to work on this Q note here, which is also a section of the outline, and hold down the Control key and click O. And this will open your section of the outline in its very own window, so you can work on that exclusively. And then what you need to do is hold down the Shift key and open up your Q note in the side panel. This is the note you're going to be working with to build your outline. Okay, so you'll see that we have the header that we put in during outline synthesis. You'll see there's a few notes and tasks. Here is your most valuable content that you dragged onto the page. And if you want to see your linked references, you can simply shift click and your linked references will show up. And unfortunately, we don't have any linked references in this, but that's where you would use your linked references to continue to write into your document. So remember, outline titles like the Q note title, they won't appear necessarily in that, well, they won't appear in that format at all in your final thesis. So outline sections like this are here exclusively to serve your writing process. They are not output pages. These pages will not be output. And they won't be included in your final output. So don't be afraid to add as many sections as you would like in your outline to make it easier for you to write. Because even if those sections are teeny tiny, what you'll do in the editing process is you'll take those sections and you will move them into larger pieces. And it's very, very easy to do that. So you do have the ability here, as we said, to track section tasks and section notes. We're going to have a look at how you do that without messing up your draft as we move into the writing. So the writing process. What are we going to do? We need to write under this question note the section of the thesis that applies to this question note. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your section note and you're going to familiarize yourself with your focus statement. So you're going to reread your focus statement, make sure you understand exactly what it is that you're about to start writing about. If you are revisiting this page because you've been writing in this section a few times, you would also want to review your section tasks and review your section notes. And we'll go over this a little more in the editing process. The next thing you need to do is you need to actually take a look at all of the content, both on page and linked, that you have available to you, just to refresh your idea as to what this section is about. And if you have completed your outline synthesizing up until this point, you should just be able to open this section header in the side panel and really get going, because it should be robust. It should be filled with notes, perhaps filled with a conversation that you had with yourself about those notes, perhaps filled with a lot of linked references. However, you can still continue to use some of the outline synthesis tricks we learned in the outline synthesize process during your writing section as well. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that because we have been through the outline synthesis and we have stepped up that ladder of thought, the place that we have kind of brought ourselves to right now is into the paragraph phase. So because we've been through the ladder of thought and we've been thinking about our outline, we've decided the arc of the structure, we've kind of put together headers and section headers and chapter headers and things like that. We're into the paragraph zone. And I I'm sure that some of you already know this and understand it, especially if you've been writing in academia for a long time. But I think this is an important structure to teach just because if it gets in your head when you're at this phase of the writing, I found it really super helpful. So this section is more for perhaps early academics than it is for later academics, but bear with me because I found it really helpful and I thought that it would be good to include. So why is it important to think paragraphs at this particular phase in the writing process? It's because every strong academic argument is built through a series of interconnecting paragraphs. And if you've been synthesizing, you might find that your outline already has the structure in place that will put you directly into the paragraph writing. That's hopefully where you are. And in my mind, if you master the paragraph, you master the argument. If you master the paragraph, you master the structure. And if you master the paragraph, you master the entire process. So I have taken this from an article, How to Master Paragraphs, and that article is linked in the resources. I found it very, very helpful. There are 4 steps to mastering the paragraph, and you will find in the lesson outline as well, which we're not looking at right now because we're on this page. The first section is the topic sentence. The topic sentence is the opening sentence of a paragraph that should signify for the reader of this dissertation, thesis, or academic journal a change in subject and focus. So it is a step forward from the past thought, and it should explain to the reader exactly what the paragraph covers. So if you look at the first sentence in this paragraph, you'll see that I tried to make it a topic sentence. What I've done here is for our writing section, I've included one paragraph, but I've split it into different sections just so that we can align it to the paragraph writing section. I have only included one reference here, but as you will see when you are writing and you open your section page, you're going to have a huge amount of references to choose from. So as you continue to write your paragraphs, you're probably going to have, 10, 20 references or more a section. So I'm only putting in one for this example, but you will imagine that there'll be lots and lots of references here. So back to the topic sentence. This sentence will probably be written as an original sentence during your create session. This sentence is maybe not something that you have as a Q note or a Z note. However, if you have done some really robust note taking, it will more than likely come from an R note because it's something that you have thought you have developed through a thought process from your F notes to your L notes, and it includes some of your own thoughts. So here is my topic sentence. The 2 generally accepted designations of the type of author who takes advantage of the post-press environment through the use of KDP or other publicly available publishing platforms are self-published or indie author. Again, this is just an example. This isn't from my thesis, but I just needed to put something in place to show you guys. Now, watch out with the topic sentence. Be wary of starting any paragraph with linking words, such as however, nevertheless, furthermore, because they will lead you into looking backwards instead of a topic sentence stepping forward. So it should present a clear and new focus for your attention. A strong paragraph should also never begin with a reference or another author's words. This will signify that your paragraph is built on other people's ideas and is kind of shaky and without substance, which means that you should keep your F notes and your L notes out of your topic sentences. They don't belong there. They belong in the token sentences, which we will cover in a moment. The next section of your outline of your paragraph, as you will see in your lesson outline, is the body. The body of the paragraph expands upon the change of thought signified by the topic sentence and provides details of the core arguments of the paragraph. And all of these body sentence can probably be found directly in your connected R notes. So your R notes are your original thought. Your original thought is going to be the body of a paragraph backing up what your topic sentence is stating. And then that moves us into the token area. So tokens are where a writer or a researcher offers these token sentences as support for the core argument that you've stated in your topic sentence and expanded upon in the body of your paragraph. And tokens can include examples, quotes, paraphrases from other authors supporting facts, etc. So another tip for you is that you probably then want to be opening your linked references because it's more likely that your token sentences will be in your F notes or your L notes. And another tip is if you have used an R note within the body of your writing, which you probably have, take a look at the R notes siblings that are nested beneath it. Those are probably the L notes and the F notes that will support the R note that you have included as the body of your paragraph. The one thing you need to remember about including tokens is that every single token needs to be referenced. And this is where we begin to converge on multiple options for writing in Rome. So there is a methodology that Lucas teaches of using Pandoc and Zotero to move your citations into a Word document. We're going to be going over that extensively during the export session. If you are going to use that methodology, or if you are going to use another methodology that I teach that is just doing the citations after you export, you still are going to need to include the cite key as a reference at the end of a token sentence so that you can use it within your citations. So how do you do that? Well, you could just type double brackets and look for your cite key, which is mass authorship rise. If you do that, you are limiting yourself in your options for export, which we'll talk about later. You can also use the Rome to Zotero add-in that I've included in the graph to do this job for you. So the way you would do that is you're going to click on your little book. It's orange and it will turn to green. When it turns to green, it means that it is ready for you to look up a citation. If you right click on the book sign, you can then go to search in dataset. If you click a quick copy, what it will do is once you choose your source, it will just put that source into Rome. I'm going to show you the longer way to do it just so that you are aware. You can go to Mass Authorship and the Rise of Self-Publishing, which is our citation, click on it, and right here you can just copy the cite key. So copy the cite key. If this source is not already in Zotero, you probably want to update Zotero. But by this point, if you've gone through your curate session correctly, all of your sources should be ready and available. So then you would just close this, and you're going to want to put the cite key inside of single brackets. That's going to be explained in the export. That's part of how Pandoc translates your cite keys. So that is how you are definitely going to want to make sure you have citations within your document. The last part of your paragraph is going to be your text wrap-up. So the wrap sentence completes the argument and signifies to the reader that this block is now in place and this paragraph block will contribute to your overarching text and your overarching argument. So a wrap text is most likely to be written during your create session. So it's highly unlikely that a wrap text will come from your previous notes, because what you're doing is you're wrapping up a paragraph. And if you haven't written that paragraph yet, it won't be in your notes. However, if you have been doing a lot of writing in your Q notes and your Z notes, it may be possible that you're just dragging whole paragraphs over intact, which again is a possibility. A wrap sentence may also include foreshadowing or linking to the next paragraph. So watch out. The acceptable research paragraph length is between 100 and 200 words. Anything beyond 300 words is too long. How do you make sure you don't go over your word count? Quite simple. You'll see we have a word counter here in our header, which counts everything nested underneath it. You get that word counter by simply clicking on the slash command, choosing word count, and it will add it in there for you. We only need it once. Okay, so now we've gone through kind of like the format of a paragraph. Here we need now to talk about why it's so magical to write in Rome. What is it that makes it so easy? And it's all about the blocks. So let's talk about block referencing. We are going to look at this paragraph right here. Because the independent author undertakes more than authorship, the term self-publisher more accurately represents the wide range of practices drawn from the traditional publishing process that independent authors must undertake. These practices must be completed by the author or outsourced to similarly independent professionals. So that is my that's my body, one of my body sentences. Of course, if this were a different paragraph, it might have more than that. And you can see, let me move my face out of the way. You can see that this particular paragraph was taken from this R note. So let's delete this and talk about how it gets there. So here I am, I'm writing my paragraph. I've included my topic sentence, and then I have found an R note that I want to expand upon within the body. What are my choices? Well, the first choice is I could simply just rewrite that text. I could simply just say the independent author has lots of jobs. Let's just say I've changed my mind and that's what I wanted to say about that particular piece of text. You would never do this. Why? Well, first of all, if you do this, you've kind of wasted all of the thinking that you've done up until this point, because you're recreating something that you've already done a lot of work on. Second of all, and more importantly, is because when you do this, you are completely disconnecting it from the source or from anything else that relates it to where you actually found that information from. So rewriting is actually off of the choices. Your second choice is you could cut and paste. So you could actually just highlight this text and you could paste it into this paragraph. This is not a great choice either. And that is because you've actually duplicated the content in your database. You now have it in two places. And secondly is because it is not at all linked. There's no link to the original source. You will be able to find it and match it because you'd just be able to do a search for it, but it's not automatically linked. It has a completely new address, different from its original address. So that's not a good choice. So another choice is you could actually embed the block. So what does that mean? Well, let's do it first. You could pick block embed, and then you could start to type this block, and you could include it here. Now, a block embed means that this block of text is actually the same exact block of text that is sitting here. So when you change this block of text, so if I take out themselves, which doesn't need to be there, you'll see that it changes in the original block as well. So that's a pro. The other pro is that you will see that it is automatically linked to the original content. You'll see the link number has gone up to 2. That is a linked reference. That is a pro. The cons are you can change the text. So it may be a pro in some areas, but it's also a con. If you change the text here and then you change and it automatically changes here, you're changing what you originally thought. So you're taking yourself out of the ladder of thought because you're changing the original thought process. You won't be able to track that anymore. The second con is that when you use the embed feature, you won't be able to take out the R note notification because then you'll lose that within your original train of thought. And last and probably most importantly is that embeds don't export. So if an embed doesn't export, it's not something that you are ever going to use. So let's change that and let's not do a block embed. So what are our other choices? Well, our other choice, the choice that we're going to choose to use is we are going to choose to use a block reference. And there are several ways in which you can do this, and we're going to review them all. So the first thing to do is how do you get this onto your page to work with and keep the link? There are a couple of ways. My favorite way, the easiest way, is to just hold down the Option key, click on the bullet, and drag it over. And that creates it as a blocked reference. You'll see that it has the block reference marks, the little blue lines on either side, depending on your CSS, that will look different. And you'll see that our link reference counter has gone up to 2, so that this reference is definitely linked. The other way that you can do a block reference is similar to the block embed. You can choose the slash, you can pick block reference, and you can either start to type like we did before and find it, or if you right click on the bullet, you can actually just say copy block ref, and in that case you can just paste it in the middle of, paste it next to the bullet, not in the middle. And then again, you have your block reference. Okay, so now you have your block reference, but this is not, remember what we said about this page, your thesis page, being output ready. This is not output ready. There's stuff on here that you definitely wouldn't want to be in the output. And maybe you do want to change your thinking and rewrite this sentence a little bit, which is fine because you still have the original note that you're about to change. How do you do that? Well, there are a couple of options and one very preferred option. So if you hover over a block reference, you'll get this little black arrow. Click on it and you will get this list of replace with choices. So the first thing you can do is you can replace with an embed, and we already decided that embed doesn't work for us. You can replace with text, which we also decided that doesn't work for us. That's the same thing as cutting and pasting. You lose your block reference. You can replace with an alias, which is basically just an asterisk that links to the original block. That doesn't work for us either. We need the text. And the last choice that we're not going to use is you can replace with the original, which means you can switch it so that the original now sits in your paper and the block reference sits in the source. You don't want to do that. You always want to have your original sitting within your source. So the choice we are going to choose is text and alias. When you click on text and alias, what happens is your block reference reverts to text, but it remains linked to your original reference because it carries through your R note. So you can see right here that it is when you hover over the asterisk, you can see the original R note. And you can also go ahead and update your text. So let's say I wanted to say, take out that and take out the comma, fix it all up. Da-da-da. Then you have your block and your block reference. Now this gets a little bit more complicated when it's time to output because some of the choices that we have will actually output this text. So there are some choices to make during the export area. You actually may not mind that the link isn't there if you are referencing heavily. So if you're referencing heavily, then you can skip doing the link and alias. But in my mind, I think it's great to have the link back to your original thinking, at least up until you are ready to export your thesis. Okay, so that is it for the writing section. Because there is a case that as we discussed before, that you might not want to use this ladder of thought for outlining to this extent. You may just want to write by using an outline that you already have. Maybe you have a very simple output, or you've been working for a long time and you have a more thorough outline. And that is the way that I used to do it. And so we are providing the beta video from the original course that shows you a very quick way of doing this from a much more bare bones approach. It's not as thorough, it's not as academically rigorous, but it may work for you, so you can certainly look at that. Okay, so let's go back to the lesson. And here is the writing section. We talked about thinking in paragraphs. We talked about making how to transfer your notes. We talked about how to reference. We didn't talk about using filtering, which we definitely need to do. What we need to talk about there is, let me just scooch back to where we were, is that if you are working on a specific section and you use a R note and you have used it and but you're not done with this section, you're going to be coming back to this Q note again and again. You can get rid of the R note by just simply using any tag that you choose. So if you just want to say used, that's fine. However you decide for your process. And then that means that when you're on this page in the main section, you can choose to, oops, it didn't stay there. Hold on. Add back the tag. We'll just choose used. You can then choose to filter out by using the filter, page filter, and let me move myself back down here. Using the page filter function, you can choose to filter out all used. So that they're still there, they're still on the page, but when you're working on that thesis, you want to make sure that you know that you've used that note already. Okay, so going back to our lesson here. So in summary, you can write inside of Rome and take advantage of the magical note-taking process, or you can write outside of Rome, whichever works for your process. And I think export is going to be definitely something that's going to help you decide that. For the course in action, you are going to just write. Just open one of your sections and see how it goes and see if you can write into that section. So what's next? What's next is we're going to have a chat about the editing process and how this is really more of a tips video that I'm going to create that's going to give you some tips of how you can move from your writing into your editing in order to prepare for export. Thank you very much. Onwards and upwards.